All right, let's do this. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome one and all to Build. How you guys feeling today? Doing all right? Doing well? Wow! Yes! Oh, wow! That was pretty good. I'm excited to hear that. I'm excited for you. Thank you for that response. Thank you for being here. Fun day, fun Thursday here at Build. A lot of great guests. This show in particular, Sun Records, we're super excited about. We just had Billy Gardell yesterday. He was a delight. And now we're super excited to have with us Margaret and Florence and Drake Milligan in the house. Make some noise for Margaret and Drake. There you go. Yes. That is perfect. Thank you for that. So they'll be out in a moment. That's what's going to happen. They're going to come on out and sit in these chairs and guess what? Have a conversation. That's right. Leading the way on this one, host and moderator, good friend of ours here at Build. She's been here a bunch. Super excited she's back from HuffPost Entertainment. The great Lee Blickley's in the house. Make some noise for Lee. One of the favorites here. There you go. That was also very nice. You guys are on fire today. So they'll come out, they'll hang out for a bit. We'll do their conversation. We'll do your conversation. We'll do some audience Q&A, okay? So we'll keep an eye out for questions from you guys and questions from our friends on the internet. Go ahead and tweet at us, at BuildSeriesNYC. All right, you do a good enough job. We'll read it live. You get to be a part of the show. You'll be famous for like 3 whole seconds, all right? So go for it. It's going to be a good time. We got a clip from the show. We're going to watch that together, and then we'll get them out here, and we'll make this thing happen. But before we go any further, oh, man, if you've been here, you know how it works. They can hear you. So I'm going to ask you one more time. You excited for Margaret and Drake? Let them know. Let them know. Greg, you look excited. Didn't hear me. Fantastic. Let's go ahead and run that clip.
Mortgaged the house?
Don't fret. Things are really looking up here.
Sam, you mortgaged the house.
Look, Becky, no, things are really looking good here. DJs can't play Elvis regular enough. Store orders are flooding in.
Sam, if you had to take
twist that so well, even I'm starting to believe you.
They're not really looking up. I have a baby coming.
I know.
Shining bright. Shining bright.
Sun Records recording artist Elvis Presley, girls. We've got a limited run of his new record, and for the low, low price of 50 cents, you can take him home with you.
2 quarters and I'm all yours, honey. It's just 50 cents.
You girls tell your friends now.
Well, it was all wonderland.
Here you are.
What's going on here?
Oh, Mr. Douglas, you're late.
Sign said you'd be back in 30 minutes.
Marion Keisker, Sun Records, and that there's Elvis Presley, Sun star recording artist.
How many you got left?
About 40. 39.
I'll take them, plus an order of 200 more.
Sounds like a deal.
All right.
Sorry, girls, you're gonna have to come back to see Mr. Douglas for your record.
You gotta trust me, Bex.
Well, what one?
Things are really picking up.
All right, guys, it is that time. Put your hands together, make some noise, and welcome your host and moderator from HuffPost Entertainment, Lee Blickley, and today's guests, Margaret and Florence and Drake Milligan.
Welcome to Build.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Hi, guys.
I hope everyone is super excited for the show because I've been one of the lucky few, I've found out,
Yes.
that have gotten to see some episodes, and it is so amazing. I love it.
Thank you.
What has it been like to be a part of this, and how did you guys both get involved?
Well, I booked this job off of a self-taped audition. So it was like amazing. That rarely happens for an actor to book a job that way. But I mean, from the beginning, this was like a project that I was like, I have got to be in this show because I am such an Elvis fan from being a child. My mom was born in Memphis, and so I have real family ties there. My grandparents used to go out for dinner at the top of the Peabody Hotel, and so it's really means a lot to me. And I mean, I had an Elvis poster on my wall as a teenager, like most girls were not doing that. So I just knew I had to be a part of this project, so I love everything about it.
Amazing. And look, we're sitting next to Elvis right here, guys.
Yeah, it's been incredible. I went to the open calls. They had open call auditions in Memphis last year. It was almost exactly a year ago. and yeah, kind of went on a whim and got it. I've been an Elvis fan since I was real little, so it's been a dream come true.
That's pretty cool. And have you played Elvis before in something else?
Yeah, I did a short film a couple years ago called Nobody. Yeah, we filmed in Memphis, and I played Elvis in high school. It was about a senior talent show, and but nothing to this scale. So it's been a really cool learning experience.
Yeah. So what has it been like for you guys to take on these roles of actual people who existed in this amazing time for music? Was it intimidating at all? I know you play Marion,
Yes.
who is Sam Phillips' sort of
love interest
Yes.
and co-producer. Yes. Well, the lucky thing for me in the series is I don't have the same pressure that these guys do of, being Elvis or being Johnny Cash and having that, idea that people have so strongly in their heads of, who these men were. So Marion Keisker was a real woman, and she is a fascinating person. There was not much recorded about her history because, she's a woman in the 50s, and we're still struggling with that now, with women getting the same opportunities and everything as men. So finding information on her was a little more difficult, but it's also, as an actor, it's nice because I get to take the pieces of her that I found, and also from talking to some friends of hers in Memphis, but I get to make the character my own some. And we're not making a documentary, with this, but we're taking our own, liberties with some of the story, but definitely based in a lot of the fact. And the relationship that Marion and Sam have, was a real relationship, in their life. And she did so much just as a woman in her time to work in radio, and produced her own radio programs and wanted to do shows that appealed to broad audiences, and refused to do radio programs that just talked about domestic chores and housekeeping. She wanted to talk about interesting cultural things, and so to get to play a woman like that is always a thrill.
Yeah, and she was kind of the brains behind the operation.
She was. You got to have a woman
Yeah.
behind there to make everything happen, right? So the men are awesome too, but yeah, she really worked hard, and the studio just would not have run the same way. Everybody said that. She was the one that you kind of had to go through her to get to Sam, and she ran things and paid the bills, and got everything that she needed to produce the records, and whatever they were doing, she did the business. Sam was there to really do the music and make the artists.
Yeah. And Drake, how about you? It's a scary role to take on, I'm sure, and you're singing and performing and.
Yeah, it's intimidating, but I've done enough research about Elvis, and you got to realize there will be huge Elvis fans out there who will be really critical, and I'm sure I'm my worst critic, but yeah, to get to do my own interpretation of Elvis and do it on a platform like this is really cool. I mean, and to take my own, thoughts about Elvis and what Elvis would have been thinking in high school, and how this sudden fame that, hit him. He was just a poor boy at Humes High, an awkward teenager, and then, a couple years later, he's the biggest star in the world. So it's an incredible transformation there, and an incredible arc to get to play.
Yeah. What kind of research did you do to kind of get into the mindset of a teen Elvis? We've seen a lot more of. We see a lot of Elvis now, but what kind of research did you do? Did you watch some films? Did you watch any footage of him at that time in his life?
Yeah, since I was little, I've always watched all the videos, all I could, and I picked up a couple of books. Peter Gralnick's Last Train to Memphis was kind of my go-to for this project. He really paints a picture in that book, and it's wonderful, and you get to see he maps out Memphis really well, and that's cool to see. So I remember preparing for the short film I did a couple years ago. It was about Elvis in high school, and Elvis was a loner. He didn't get along with too many people, so I spent my time. I was still in high school when I filmed that, so I spent some time just at school watching the kid in the back of the classroom, the kids that nobody pays attention to, watching those kids, see how they act, and just kind of got myself to the mindset of what Elvis would have been thinking at that time.
Interesting. And you guys shot this in Memphis, correct?
Yes, we shot in the heat of summer in Memphis.
It was hot.
which I'm from South Carolina, which is hot on its own. But Memphis is like and Drake's from Texas. So we know hot, but Memphis is like on the surface of the sun, I think. So, but it was an incredible experience to shoot there. I mean, you could not shoot this show anywhere else. We had 2 sets built. We built the interior of Sun Records, and we built the interior of a radio station, and every single other thing was shot on a location or outside in Memphis. And Memphis, you know, for better or worse, has stayed a lot the same. So there's not much set dressing to do. You know, it's right there as it was during this time period. So that's an incredible luxury to have as an actor.
Yeah, it was like stepping back in time. I mean, you'd have the period cars and everybody's in costume, and it was like you're stepping into 1950s Memphis. And I imagine it had to be cool for you. I know y'all filmed a scene on Beale Street.
Yes.
And so it's like, you know, Beale Street was the happening place in the 50s, and that's so it's cool to get that energy from Memphis too. Memphis has got its own energy. I know every time I walk into Sun Studio, I get chills. I mean, there's just a certain magic there.
Yeah, because you know these actual people were actually there, like standing where you're standing, shooting this scene, and you know, to think about how exciting that is it's really cool.
You mentioned the costumes and stuff. What was that like to kind of step into that world? It must be fun because that's some cool stuff.
That is
to
the
wear.
best thing ever. Like, well, I think definitely it's so nice when you can be in a different time period because it really takes you physically out of yourself and what you look like every day, and it's much easier for me mentally to kind of think and move the way this person might think and move in their clothing. And the hair and the makeup. As I said, because it was so hot, I mean, we used all my real hair. Everything you see in the show is my hair, which was so curled. Our hairstylist, she did an amazing job. I mean, she curled my hair like 3 times a day because it would be like, it was just like dying as I was shooting. But we were so lucky to have such talented hair and makeup people to help us with that, with the transformations.
Yeah, it was really cool. The Lansky brothers, who Elvis bought his clothes from in the 50s when he started going on tour and everything, they provided some clothes actually for the series. So like that shirt you see right there, that's a Lansky shirt, and so it was cool to get to wear some of that cool stuff, you know, and just that kind of heritage there. But yeah, it was kind of like stepping into the shoes of Elvis, which was. It was big shoes, but yeah.
Blue suede shoes, shall we say.
Right.
And looking at this poster, we have, of course, Chad Michael Murray as Sam Phillips.
Yes.
And you guys both got to work with him on this. What was that like? And he really does transform into Sam Phillips for this role.
He does. We were all just so impressed with Chad and his work in the show. And, you know, we got to see all the episodes all together. God, was that last weekend? I don't know. I don't know. It's like
been crazy.
But we saw everything in one day, the entire series. So, you know, to see all of Chad's work come together and all the scenes that we had with him, you know, he's just a great guy and a great actor and really, you know, gave this role his all. And I think, you know, people are really going to see a side of him that maybe they haven't before. So
yeah, it was great for me, you know, coming from not a lot of experience and you know, I remember getting to Memphis the first week and you know, they're like, oh, Chad wants to have dinner. And you never know with people like that, you know, you never know. You hear stories about, you know, you hear bad stories. But Chad was absolutely amazing. I mean, as soon as I got to Memphis, it was like, you know, here's how you contact me. You ever need anything, have any questions, just call me. You have any concerns. It was like a Sam and Elvis Big Brother aspect almost. It was. It was. And it was. I mean, he helped me so much just be comfortable. I mean, and that's the biggest thing. So I can't say enough about working with Chad. It was extraordinary.
Yeah. It must have been cool too if you're a One Tree Hill fan because I would have been freaking out like Lucas Scott.
People would scream on the street in Memphis. We were shooting. I think the first day we were shooting, and this girl was like, "Ah!" And I was like, "What is going on?" And I was like, "Oh, it's for Chad."
Are you guys ready for that kind of fame? I mean, it comes with roles like this. This is a good show that people are going to be watching. Are you?
Well,
guys
we
thinking
hope
about that?
so. I think we're just really proud of the show, and you know, no matter what happens, we just want people to enjoy it and love it as much as we loved making it.
Absolutely, and because I've always been a fan of this story and the story of Sun Studio and this music that came out of this time, and I was absolutely blown away by the series. I was, and it's just to get to see that side, because you know, rock and roll wasn't really started by Elvis and these guys and Carl Perkins. It was started by these guys that came out of Memphis, like Ike Turner, Jackie Brenston, Joe Hill Lewis, B.B. King. That's where the foundation was built. And so to get to be a part of that story is just incredible.
Yeah, well, it shows you how rock and roll was sort of formed with the help of R&B and blues. And is there anything that you guys learned while shooting the show that you really had no idea about at this time of music?
I think sort of just the volume of people that came through Sun Records, that people don't realize that that was where they started. You know Elvis because he was, this huge artist with RCA, or, you don't realize that a lot of these people came through Sun Records, and, without them and without working with Sam there, they might not have developed into the people that so many people listen to today. So I think that was surprising. And a lot of people don't even know what Sun Records is, I mean, I know because I had that history and knew my family and knew Elvis, but for the people, in America right now that maybe don't know Sun Records yet, but you will. And so it's a fascinating story and history in America, really.
Yeah, I hope that what people take away from this is because it's not exactly historically accurate. I hope that people see this stuff and they go, wow, and they want to pick up the books and go watch documentaries about this stuff and learn the history and learn all, because in a show like this, you can't cover the whole spectrum of especially what Sam Phillips did. I mean, it was incredible, just the amount of people that came out of Sun, like you said, the amount of the talent that came out of Sun Studios is really amazing.
Yeah. And so this show is sort of based on the $1 Million Quartet show, correct?
It is. I mean, that's a foundation of it, but I think, that's sort of the idea of the $1 Million Quartet is the one night that those four men came together.
Yep.
And really the show is so much more expansive than that, and really involves a lot of, stories about the other characters, the relationships between, Sam and his wife, and Sam and my character Marion, and, the family backstories of all these guys. So while it is, it was born out of that idea of that musical and those four musicians, I think it's really evolved into a full character-driven story about all of these people.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And what was it like for you to kind of team up with these younger actors who are around your age, all playing these really iconic singers and performers in the history of music? It must be.
Yeah, it was. We almost became instant friends. I know the Lees brothers who play Jerry Lee and Jimmy Swaggart, and Kevin Fontaine who plays Johnny Cash, and Dustin Ingram who plays Carl Perkins. We really just banded together. I mean, it was instant. I mean, and that's so cool to have a cast like that that's hanging out all the time. I know we all lived at the Chiska Hotel where Dewey Phillips had his radio station.
Yeah, he used to broadcast out of the basement of that building that we were living in that had turned into apartments. But we were all friends. I mean, it really sounds silly, but we are all really good friends.
We'd all have barbecues and everything.
Yeah, we had
and
cookouts. We did on Sunday nights.
Yeah.
We had like family barbecue and. I know it sounds really, really all-American, doesn't it? But we did. We loved it. We loved being together. Thank goodness, because we were really together. I mean, for that, really April through the middle of July. So it was great to have just all that. We were also supportive of each other. We would come on days that people weren't shooting, come to set just to be like, how's your scene going, and whatever. So. It's nice.
Speaking of Dewey Phillips, I think Cara O'Donnell plays him.
Amazing.
Incredible.
If you guys don't know who he is, he's Todd from the Wedding Crashers.
Yeah.
And I was like, this guy is so familiar to me, but he kills this role. And it kind of shows you what he did for this age of music as well.
And what a great guy too, Kier. He was part of our kind of friend group. We called it the bad boy crowd. He was kind of the leader of the bad boys crowd.
But
well.
But yes.
But yeah, Kier's incredible, and the transformation he made in this is unbelievable. I've being an Elvis fan, you can't help but look into the history of Dewey Phillips and what Dewey really did for music back then. I mean, he played these artists that it was. I mean, he got a lot of I don't know the word, like he got a lot of fleck for it. I guess I don't know. That's a weird word, but for playing all this unheard of music coming out of Memphis, and he was really a pioneer in it, and such a crazy character. I mean, but Kier absolutely embodies him. I don't know how he did it. But he turns up that craziness level. For
He does. Well, Dewey Phillips, I think, was just a character, in his own right, but he had such a passion for this music, and I think that's really what Keir brings across in his performances. It meant something to Dewey Phillips. He wasn't just there to play these records. The music and getting these people's stories across, whatever they were singing, that was what drove him. And so I think, Keir really brings that aspect of Dewey out and is also hilarious because, Dewey Phillips was a hilarious guy, but, it's... You see the struggle in his character too, though, because he's playing music, that's not really kosher with all of the listening audience, at the time, playing a lot of music by other artists that, was at the time of struggle in civil rights era. So, yeah.
We see a lot of that in the beginning with Elvis's storyline and how he's kind of, going against his parents a little bit. He's going to a gospel church to kind of be inspired. What was it like for you to relive that storyline and then going into the Sun Records and Elvis becoming such a big hit?
Yeah, I'm so glad they included that. It's kind of famously known that Elvis would often attend the Reverend Herbert Brewster's East Trigg Baptist Church in Memphis, and that's where all his that's where his influences came from, was just that gospel music. The gospel music at his church didn't do it for him. It didn't have feeling. It didn't have the soul to it. So Elvis was incredible in that aspect, where he just didn't care. He wanted to feel the music, and that's incredible. That's an incredible story to tell, and I was glad to be a part of it.
Yeah. And you sing in this show, right? That's actually you.
Yeah, that is me.
Have you always been a singer, and is this kind of like a dream role for you to kind of show off both sides?
Yeah, I'm so glad that there's so much music incorporated in this, and I think people will really appreciate some of it. I mean, some of it, because I would have loved to do it every scene, live music, but some of the auditorium scenes you'll see, because of, crowd noise and stuff like that, we had to kind of, add in music later, but it's still me singing. But most of these scenes, like, you'll see me sit down at the Arcade Diner, which is a famous little spot in Memphis, and sing. That's live. And the stuff in Sun Studio, what you're seeing on camera is what you're getting. I think that's really cool.
Yeah. He not only looks like Elvis, he can sing like Elvis, guys. I can vouch for that.
Yes.
And so your story kind of picks up, Sun Records is just getting started, and we see Marion, and we see her kind of running the show. But then, like you said, there's this love interest aspect of it too, which I don't know if many people will expect. I don't want to give too much away.
Yes, we don't want to give too much away. But Marion is there, to help Sam basically set up what's originally the Memphis recording service, which Sam, had this idea he was going to record anyone, anytime, anywhere, and make money however he could. So they were recording funerals, and they were recording baptisms, and whatever they could do. And people were coming in the studio, and it was just the very beginning of trying to build that business. So Marion's there with him from the very beginning, and is there as his partner. And the great thing about Sam is, for the most part, he treats her as his partner and I think respects her and what she's trying to do for the business, So that was a great part of our relationship to play too with Chad and I, and I think that really comes across.
What has it been like for you to kind of find one of these roles that it's so hard to find a good, strong female character these days, and you found one, and you're playing one, girl, and it's great.
I am so lucky. I can't even tell you. And, our director, Roland Jaffe, he really does such an incredible job with the show, but I'm really in debt to him, particularly for my character, because we really fought throughout the series to just keep her integrity, and keep her this strong, intelligent woman, where a lot of times, especially in the 50s, things could get pushed the other way, So it was really important to me to maintain that, and to have hopefully women watching the show have a respect for her too. Maybe she's not always quite doing the right thing, but she's trying to be a strong, solid woman, and she was smart, and that's always fun to play smart.
Great character.
Yes, thank you.
And following Nashville, which is another show that has incredible female characters.
Exactly,
So,
yes.
guys, they're both on tonight. You have to
That's
watch.
right. What's going to happen to Raina? I'm so worried about that. I want to, I don't know how I'm going to watch it before my show. I got to, watch it all.
Well, I do want to open it up to some audience questions. So here.
Hey guys.
Hi.
So I guess for you, Drake, what did the Presley estate or the family reach out to you when you took on the role? And you know, if they did, what was their response?
Yeah, I haven't met Priscilla or Lisa Marie yet, but Elvis Presley Enterprises and the CEO there, Jack Soden, have been behind it 100%. And any advice they can get, they've given has been great. So yeah, they've backed it 100%, absolutely, which is great. I mean, you kind of you definitely, and just to put Elvis's name on TV and his likeness is a big deal. So to have them behind us it's really humbling and really great.
Hi, how are you guys?
Good.
Great.
I was wondering, since this is a period piece, if you were born in another time, what decade do you think you'd be born in and why?
Mine would be the 50s because, as I said, I've been obsessed with it since I was a child. I don't know. I've always had this very strong affinity for this time period and music, especially. I grew up with doing a performing group. I sing as well, actually. So we did a lot of like 50s and 60s music, and I guess because that was the time period, you know, that my parents were children, and I guess that's sort of where it comes from. But I just think it was a fascinating time. I think people really respected themselves and how they looked and what they wore and took real pride in their work and their families and all that. So something about that appeals to me, and just the interesting aspect of the time period, and like I said before, civil rights that was happening, and I think it was a really interesting time in American history, and really also fun. Like, I think people were having fun in some ways, so I just love it.
I have to agree. I mean, that it's just it's a cool. It would have been a great time to live. I don't know. It's just, yeah, the way people carry themselves and everything. I mean, of course, that era had its problems, but it was such a changing world, and it was like it was like those people were on the front of something, you know, of what would become, well, you know, just a really growth period. So, yeah, it was. I think it would have just been so exciting to live back then.
And the music. I
Yes,
mean,
Music.
look at the music we listen to now, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go back to some of this stuff, right?
Hey guys,
Hi.
congrats on the show.
Thank
Looks
you.
Awesome. In terms of you know, being actors, breaking into the entertainment industry, were there any obstacles that you overcame, or maybe lessons that you learned that you can pass on to aspiring actors and performers?
Yeah, well, I struggle a little bit with just stepping out. This was such it was really 0 to 100 for me. You know, I came from not a lot of experience to a whole lot. But I was lucky to have a good support group and have a director that really cared and really took his time with me. And so I think that's the biggest part, is just surrounding yourself with great people who are going to support you no matter what. And so, yeah, that was the biggest thing for me. And there was times where I'd have trouble just, you know, branching out. You know, there were scenes where, you know, you have to get a glimpse of Elvis being the biggest star in the world, and I was still, you know, it was kind of cool to see a mirroring of almost my career and Elvis's career at the time of this series, because it was, you know, I normally I'm not a talkative guy.
No,
you know?
you are. You're very
And
Elvis.
so, yeah, so it was like it was having to almost mirror my life with Elvis's, you know, having to step out of my comfort zone and become this, and try to become this big star, you know, that I'm not. But yeah,
Well,
exactly.
I think just, you know, I've been working, you know, for several years now, and I've been lucky to do some other great projects. But I think, you know, for any actor, it's just, you just have to keep going. But that also means you have to keep working on your craft and what you're doing. You have to keep, I mean, I was taking class up until the moment I, you know, got this job. Like, you just have to keep learning and keep studying, and it's just never, ever done. And you cannot listen to anybody that tries to tell you that you can't do this or you can't do that or whatever. You just gotta believe in yourself wholeheartedly and keep going in whatever career you're doing, not just an actor. You know, it's just about what you want to do in your life, and you know, you have to hopefully prepare yourself for when this opportunity might come your way, to be ready for it. So that's all you can do, and you're always still learning. I mean, I don't know I've learned more in this past year than I have in a long time, just from getting the opportunity to work on this show. I mean, you learn so much just by working on a show. So it's always growing, always moving forward. But you have to just keep going. That's all you can do.
Great advice. And guys, I believe in this show because it's really, really good. If you guys are music fans or you love this time period, please watch the show. It's on tonight, right?
Yes.
At 10 p.m. is the premiere.
Yes.
So make sure to watch it. Thank you both for being here. It's
Thank
so
you
great
so
to meet
much.
you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.